with the news out of Georgia.
Yeah.
Obviously heartbreaking, awful
Sure.
news.
Sure.
One, your reaction to that. Two, to Kamala Harris on the campaign trail in New Hampshire, talking about the epidemic of gun violence, seemingly going in the direction of making it a campaign issue.
Well, first of all, I mean, as a father of 3 young kids, including a couple who just started school in the past couple of days, my heart breaks for those families, right? Such a joyous occasion to get started back for a new school year, to have your loved ones taken from you. I just can't imagine it. And we're thinking about them, we're praying for them, and hoping that this tragedy is the last of its kind in this country, because we do have way too much gun violence and we do have way too much school shooting. But I think turning it into a campaign issue is really a huge mistake, because first of all, we don't know why this happened. We don't know what motivated the shooter, and we don't know what steps we could have taken maybe to prevent this from happening. I think we ought to let the facts come in before making political judgments. And for now, we should be grieving for these families and wishing the best for them.
Yeah, my kids started this week too.
Yeah.
It's news no parent wants to hear,
Of course.
obviously. But you're right, we're still getting information, so we'll let that play out.
Yep.
The other big headline, the DOJ, Treasury, State Department indicting RT, formerly known as Russia Today,
Yep.
and subsidiaries here in the United States. Any involvement with the campaign, any involvement in trying to influence the campaign, or anybody with these subsidiaries reaching out to either you, to your campaign, to President Trump?
No, I've had no contact with some of the names that I've seen mentioned. I mean, some of these people you, of course, interact with on social media. You see them at events. They've certainly never reached out and tried to persuade me to take a particular position, whether it's a pro-Russia position or an anti-Russia position. You know, I think it's certainly, look, the allegations are very damning. This is one of these things where you got to let the facts come in. And, of course, we have, innocent until proven guilty in this country. But certainly what I've seen, man, it looks pretty bad. And I'm hoping that it's very limited, because the more this stuff gets out there, I think that the more that it challenges Americans' faith in their own political debates and their own political decisions.
I was going to say, this has been going on for years. I mean, Russia Today, there was RT America, so this isn't anything new.
Of course, yeah.
So this is not exactly a surprise. Speaking of Russia launched another attack overnight on Lviv. I was recently in Ukraine in July and August. President Trump has said that he would have this war basically wrapped up.
Yep.
Before taking office if reelected. Do you agree with that? How do you get that done? How does he get that done? Is that possible? Because in Ukraine, there's a lot of people who are wary of that.
Yeah, well, look, there are also a lot of people in Ukraine who are wary of perpetual war, and there are a lot of people in Russia who are also wary of perpetual war. And if you look at this really is not in the best interest of Ukraine. It's not in the best interest of Russia. It's not in the best interest of the United States for this thing to be prolonged indefinitely. And I think President Trump recognizes that smart diplomacy, applying leverage, can actually force a peaceful settlement here. I do agree with him. I think that he's right. And I also think, frankly, look, the bad guys are afraid of Donald Trump. It's one of the reasons why Russia didn't invade another country when he was president. They recognize that if Donald Trump is going to be the president of the United States, they can't walk all over the United States, which I think creates an opening for peace.
The other big story, I want to talk to you about the protests that are ongoing, the anti-Israel.
Yeah,
the media, they've been categorized as pro-Palestinian. I was in Chicago. I've covered these protests. They're fiercely anti-Israel, fiercely anti-American, pro-Hamas, but also the news of the hostages being murdered by Hamas that came out over the weekend, including Hirsch Goldberg Poland, an American citizen, while Hamas continues to hold American citizens hostage. What more should the United States be doing to deal with Hamas, to deal with Hezbollah, to deal with Iran? And as far as the protests, there are veterans involved. I was confronted by a group about face that they say they're a veteran, supposedly. I have no way to check that. But as a veteran, as a Marine Corps veteran, what are your thoughts about that, these protests? When does it go from being a freedom of speech to hate speech?
Well, I think it becomes a problem when you start violating the law. And we've seen a lot of these protesters, right, harassing their fellow students, setting up tent encampments, which basically just turn these college campuses into garbage dumps. When you break the law, you ought to be prosecuted for it. Whatever you think and whatever you believe, we, of course, believe in the First Amendment in this country. We do not believe in law breaking. And that's the thing, that's the line that we, unfortunately, a lot of Democratic leaders and the Kamala Harris administration has allowed these students to cross time and time again, stopping their fellow students from going to class, harassing their fellow students, actually setting up these garbage dumps on campus.